What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to my Spotlight series. Today we talk about some of the best shooting games that I've ever played, both single player and multiplayer. This will be FPS games though, not third person shooters. Before I start, I want to give a few honourable mention to 2016's Doom, Counter-Strike Go, Team Fortress 2, Half-Life 2 and the original Quake. All of these games are or were amazing in their day, but I haven't played them enough for me to feel good about putting them in this little list. Like and subscribe if you enjoy, and we'll get straight into it. First up today is Black. Made by Criterion, the company in charge of the best Burnout games, it really shouldn't be a surprise that Black is one of the most explosive and intense shooting experiences you will ever have. Mostly forgotten by modern gamers, the PS2 and Xbox game Black really showed what could be done with game engines, making sure that every bullet affected the game world in some way. As such, chunks of brick and cement would fly out, windows would smash, and anything that might explode definitely did. This is because Black doesn't exactly encourage conserving ammo. In fact, shooting literally everything in front of you is basically the name of the game. With stellar gun animations made even better by slow-mo reloads and a relentless pace, Black is one of the best shooters that if you don't play, you're absolutely missing out. Next up is Time Splitters Future Perfect.
Humankind finds itself locked in a mortal struggle with the Time Splitters. Our last hope lies with a small ship speeding towards Earth. On board are 9 stolen time crystals.
While many might have put Time Splitters 2 here, with very good reason, my preference has always been the next entry, Future Perfect. With a really well designed story and much improved shooting mechanics, Future Perfect is not only the most recent entry into the series, it's alright, we can all cry together, but it's also the best. Adding in the frenetic custom games and challenges that are just known in the Time Splitters series, there's a lot of time to be lost in the game, and the above par story, showcasing time travel and lots of different characters, most of them memorable, and lots of guns to shoot, it really is an absolute must of a game.
You go first.
Okay.
Next up is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Just like a ghost. It takes over every man it touches. Its thirst cannot be quenched.
This was tough. Nearly every fibre in my being was screaming at me to put COD 4 here, but let's face it, nostalgia aside, Modern Warfare 2 is the better game. With a genuinely great campaign, the best map design that you'll see in the series probably, with great examples such as High Rise, Favela and Rust, and the many different ways you could play the game, it really is fantastic, and unlike most of the games on this list, has actually aged really well. With a ton of kill streaks, perks, guns, and their various attachments, there was no end to the micromanaging of equipment, but not so much that it felt pointless or ridiculous. Modern Warfare 2 is the holy grail of the COD franchise, and rightly so, as it is truly one of the most fun FPS games to have ever been created.
He's got a contact in Rio.
Don't you have a guy on the inside?
He's gone silent. Makarov's reach is spreading. This can only end one way.
You may be able to destroy me.
Next up is Battlefield Bad Company 2.
They said.
It's a fake what you found. Fake, sir?
Dummy. We think it's a dry run.
Nothing's ever really that simple, though.
After the relatively lackluster Bad Company, DICE had a lot to prove with Bad Company 2, and by God did they ever manage it. With a funny campaign that successfully got you attached to the characters, great shooting and movement mechanics combined with the top tier destruction physics, it has almost become the golden boy of the whole franchise, despite the massive success of later titles. With multiplayer maps so large it was ridiculous for the time, realistic sniping, vehicles and a plethora of weapons and attachments to unlock and use, there was almost no end to the fun that could be had in multiplayer modes. While I played Battlefield 4 more than Bad Company 2, Bad Company 2 is still, in my eyes, the best game in the series. Next up is, obviously, Overwatch.
This is Morrison. London has been attacked. King's Row has fallen. We're on the brink of open war.
Hundreds are dead and thousands injured.
Team, it's up to you.
I wanted to avoid putting this on here, but I just couldn't. Overwatch is the game that restored my love in the FPS genre. One that I had fallen out of love with for the most part. My favourite game in years, Overwatch combines humour, amazing character design and addictive gameplay to build the most solid FPS experience I've ever had the pleasure of enjoying. The great community and support from Blizzard also helps, but it really does come down to the gameplay, ranging from modes that are just there for fun, custom games that you can host and share with others, and a competitive mode for those into their more hardcore experiences like myself. There is something for everyone. The heroes you can choose from have undeniable influences from MOBAs with their abilities binded to certain buttons, but it's been adapted to the FPS format terrifically, feeling far more streamlined and accessible than any MOBA. Deservedly winning Game of the Year for 2016, beating out a handful of other stellar titles, Overwatch is one of the best games in history, and you really shouldn't miss it. Next up is Halo 2 and 3.
You are, all of you, vermin. Cowering in the dirt, thinking, what? That you might escape the coming fire?
The only case where I really couldn't choose between them, Halo 2 built my love for competitive sweaty gaming, where you really try your heart out at all times, with its amazing mechanics, perfect map design and wonderfully balanced weapons and spawns, and was also combined with a strong campaign offering that, while not the best in the series by a long shot, did nothing but contribute to the game's success. Arguably one of the founders of popular online gaming, modern developers owe a lot to Halo 2. Halo 3 is probably the best online shooter that I've ever played. Period. Despite massive competition from Battlefield and COD at the time, Halo 3 still stands today as one of the pinnacles of multiplayer gaming that took everything that Halo 2 built and improved upon it in nearly every single way. The massive offering of modes, the gigantic esports support, and a truly immense community support, combined with a much improved single player story, makes Halo 3 the best FPS game of all time, in my admittedly very biased eyes. Next up is The Darkness 2.
Rest for the darkness. It chose me. Gave me its power. But like everything else, it came with a price.
Jackie, this was not your fault.
And now, it's mine to control.
In an attempt to stray from the norm here, Darkness 2 is some of the most fun that I've had in a story-based FPS game. Combining a load of guns, charming cel-shaded graphics and monstrous demon powers, and surprisingly a very good narrative that's accompanied by stellar voice acting and direction, Darkness 2 offers basically everything you could ask for. I can't explain the story without giving too much away, but it really does pull you along at a really nice pace, with slow sections designed for story and world crafting, and then rampant violent bits, where you really can just murder everything in some of the most delightful ways. From throwing them off a building, tearing them in half, dismantling them with manhole covers, pinning them to walls with spears. If you've ever wanted a game that you could just sit back and positively charge through, this is one of those. A true classic in my eyes. The Darkness 2 really is great. Next up is Super Hot. A sleeper hit, the indie title Super Hot proved to be very popular, mainly due to the fact it's managed a rare thing. It's genuinely unique. Everything from its graphical style to the storytelling and the main mechanic in play, everything in Super Hot is done in a way that makes it stand out amongst the crowd. Revolving around the idea that time slows when you're not moving, almost to a stop. Super Hot opens in front of you as a tactical game that really makes you think about your actions because you will die if you get hit even once, whether it be by a bullet or a baseball bat. At the end of each mission, or scene might be a better term, what you've done plays back at a normal speed where you get to see every action in its glory. Like catching that gun out of midair or dodging machine gun fire, it suddenly looks like something out of the Matrix. It's these satisfying moments when you've really spent time on beating a level and you get to sit back and watch your success that makes you realise what a marvel Super Hot really is.
Super hot.
Next up is Destiny. The Marmite of gaming. You either love Bungie's divisive title or you hate it. I most definitely fall into the first category for a number of reasons. The way Destiny feels when you play it is incredible. It's like Halo but more heavy and chunky in the most satisfying way. Everything from the weapon and ability sound effects to the way you move around is very addictive and makes playing the now 30 to 40 hour story once you get all the expansions a real joy. The community that Destiny sparked is something I've never seen. From hundreds of content creators on Twitch and YouTube to the millions of players that play the game. Everyone enjoys the game and they do it together. That spirit that you feel in the game is part of what makes Destiny so special. There's the lore that you can read up on and get lost in, there's the amazing graphics and vistas, the clever and rewarding raids, and then there's even a very good multiplayer offering for those in the mood for PvP. For those that can move past the slightly dodgy storytelling, Destiny becomes some of the best value gaming that you'll ever have the pleasure of enjoying.
To finish what it started. To take our home. That's why I've been looking for you for centuries. There are only a few of you who carry the light of the Traveler.
Next up and last up for today is Doom 3. Now this might be an unpopular opinion. For a series so invested into its fast-paced run-and-gun style, Doom 3 came as a complete shock to critics and fans alike. Suddenly veering into the horror genre, Doom 3 was a tense, well-designed scarefest that did everything to keep you on your toes. Sporting the best graphics in the series at the time, and some great sound design, the atmosphere and tension in Doom 3 really carried it, especially during its weaker stages. Later on in the game, once you accumulate guns and ammo, it becomes a lot more like the other Doom titles where you can just shoot everything and not care. But the first half of Doom 3 still stands today as one of the best and most honest horror experiences I've ever had. And I really do hope that the series eventually picks up this horror vibe again, as there is a ton of potential in the series for it. That was the last one for today, guys, though. So if you did enjoy my top 10 best FPS games that I've ever played, I'm going to come up with a more catchy title than that. If you did enjoy it, like and subscribe. Thank you to all of those who already have. My name's been Dodge Gamer, and you've all been awesome. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
This to yourself. She looked at me, and this is what she said. Oh, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got